Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Once again, we're on the East Yorkshire Wolds, and behind me there's a fingerpost sign. From here you can get to Middleton, to Beverley, to Bainton and to Lockington. Although quite why you'd want to go to any of those places when you come here is beyond me, because I'd quite happily stay quite a long time in this place. This is lovely. This is Lund. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Lund is a village and civil parish in the East Riding of Yorkshire, situated approximately 6 miles northwest of Beverley, 7 miles southwest of Driffield, and to the east of the B1248 road. Until 1974, there were 2 locations with the name Lund in the East Riding. The second is a small hamlet near Cliff in Selby, which is now over the border and into North Yorkshire. Our first major landmark is the Church of All Saints, a building of stone in the Gothic style whose chancel was rebuilt in 1845 and 1846. There are several monuments in the church. There are also 2 mutilated effigies which formerly belonged to an ancient monumental tomb, probably that of Edmund Thwaites Esquire. Sir Henry Thwaites was also buried in the chancel. We'll pass the church again in a short while. The path through the churchyard leads us out into the green, Lund's central area, which in times gone by would have been a marketplace. It remains an important area of the village. As you can see by the impeccable timing of this bus that came through here, this is where you can access the public transport network. So when I drove into the village, I purposely drove from the south, not using the main road that sort of bypasses the village, and there's a reason for that, because I wanted to get a feel for what was here by driving through it first to the north before I actually started walking around. And that told me a few things, but it certainly didn't tell me everything. And one thing it surely did not tell me was about this. This is a bus shelter, but it's also loads of other things as well. Let's have a little snoop around in here and see what we can find. There's plenty in here. This brick building is an old forge, worked by many generations of the same family of blacksmiths till the late 1970s, when it was converted to a bus shelter. There are many things in here. This is not just your average bus shelter, that's for sure. In here, there are bus timetables though, and the all-important magic number is number 145. The parish notice board is on the back wall, so naturally the TVI cards came out. Mark Lund off the list, guys. We keep marching on through the East Riding. Normally we see book exchanges in old red telephone boxes, but given how big this forge is, it makes perfect sense to have a little free library in here, and it's likely drier too. The only clue this used to be a forge I found was this notice in the window, which actually uses the word. Until this point, I thought this might have been a cottage, like the one in Laneham. In the centre of the forge is a large tree stump. Let's not forget this is a bus shelter, so I guess you need somewhere to sit and wait for the next number 145 bus. Here's the village pump on the green. To the north of the green is a group of 3 trees surrounding a small hollow. That was a cockpit used for cockfighting in times past. Lund used to have a weekly market on Thursdays too, for which a charter was granted in the 13th century. The shaft of the market cross still stands on the green. Next we have the village's pub, the Wellington Inn. Lund used to have its own grocers, shoemakers, tailors, and during the 19th century a second public house too. That brings us to the phone box, which appears empty, probably due to the fact that the old forge caters for most of the things these usually would. There's a post box next to it too. And directly behind the phone box we've got an information board, which handily shows us a map of the village. Let's have a look at that next, so I can show you my route around the place. Okay, we're freehold with the camera for a second so I can show you my route around the village. So here's the map on the information board. Now I started halfway down North Road, somewhere about here, just to the north of the church. I've come through the church and onto the green and I'm about there. And my route is quite simple. It's just basically going to go down Lockington Road, then down here, around this bit. There's an area called Queensmead here, which I'll catch. Then I'll come back up here to the green again and back up to where I started. And then all this bit here, the top part of North Road, the very northern part of North Road, I'll drive that. I'll put the camera on the dashboard and we'll drive that way towards the next village. This next area is much changed from what it would have been like in the 18th century. We're approaching the Manor House. This building used to be a series of barns and later garages. There's a nursery almost next door. The Manor House is built on the site of an earlier building and it was owned by the Remington family who emigrated to America in the 18th century. They founded the great engineering company which bears their name. In front of the house is an old wall broken by an imposing 17th century gateway, placed there by the Remingtons. This building is the old schoolhouse erected in 1866 for the accommodation of 140 children. In 1892, the average attendance was around 60, and it was endowed by Mr. John Mosey, who died in 1813. Next to the school is the primitive Methodist chapel built in 1871. It has an attached schoolroom. This isn't the first one in the village. The previous one still stands and it's now used as the church hall. There's evidence to suggest that almost all of the village's houses used to be built of dried mud with thatched roofs. By around the end of the 18th century, these began to be replaced by bricks. Well, if the Green and Lockington Road are anything to go by, the rest of this village should be an absolute treat. That was awesome. I'm totally in love with this place already. I've only been here about 20 minutes. Let's see what's down Eastgate. Lund's most famous son is arguably John Fancy, the Second World War airman and escapee from German captivity. He was born in the village. His tunnelling escapes from various German POW camps during World War II earned him the nickname The Mole, and he inspired the book and film The Great Escape. The name Lund, by the way, is clear evidence that this place was occupied by Norsemen. The word Lunda in their language signifies a grove. We're still only halfway around the village at this point. You can pick up a few footpaths that link Lund to other places, like this one here, off Damson Garth. The village is known locally for the care it gives to its gardens and grass verges. Apart from several popular open garden events, it's twice won the North Humberside Prize for the best kept village. In Britain in Bloom competitions, it's won the first prize in the village section successively for Yorkshire and Humberside, for which it retained the Challenge Shield after winning it 3 times. Okay, so here we are at Queensmead, at the south of the village. This is just basically a residential street, nothing much more than that. And this is where we turn around and start to head back north. It's not a very big village, Lund, really. It's just, yeah, just nice for about a half-hour stroll, if you fancy it yourself. So this is Queensmead at the southern end of the village, which is where I'll turn back on myself and head north again. There's not much to say about this area, aside from this large green. Queensmead is also where some of the more modern houses are located, the older core being much more centralised. In keeping with what's almost a tradition in the East Riding now, I made sure to capture these street lamps. These, like in Eton, are numbered. I wonder how many there are here. Other than what I've already told you, the recorded history of Lund is scanty. Nothing more of national importance has happened here. As far back as can be traced, it's been a village of yeomen, small independent farmers, and never, since medieval times at least, an estate village ruled by one big landowner. That's except for a period in the 18th and 19th centuries when the Grimston family of Kinnock and later the Hothams of South Dalton acquired some farms. I've seen a few of these planters around. Lund in bloom, and absolutely it is in bloom. It looks very pretty in the sunshine. Lund does have a bit of modern history though. Location sequences for the village and church of Hinton St John in the Robert Donat film Lease of Life from 1954 were filmed in Lund and nearby Beverley. Our walk continues past a footpath which links Cherrygarth back to the green. It looks like this at one time was an actual road, given the markings, but it's now blocked off to traffic. Time for a brief look up West End, which didn't have anything major on it to be honest, but I did find some interesting bits. For one, this is quite a rural part of the Yorkshire Wold, so it came as no surprise there's a sign here warning you of ducks crossing. As recently as 1949, there were 8 shops in Lund. It may have no shops now, but it does have an egg stall at one house on the corner of West End and the Green. And here is that house, so if you're ever in short of any, you can always pick some up here. The nearest shops to the village are now in Middleton on the Wolds. So we're turning back onto the green now. In front of me is a church hall. There you go. Church hall. Now we're approaching the green from the south. By this point, I'd kind of exhausted all the things I could find about Lund to fill this part of the video. That's apart from a mention of the Thwengs, the Jarretts and the Broadleys, 3 names historically associated with the manor before it passed to the Remingtons. I came across this wheelbarrow on this side of the green. This might have been a little overgrown at the time of filming, but then again I don't know much about plants. Is it supposed to be like this? We're heading back to North Road again, which means passing the church again. It's a large church for what has always been a small village, and it certainly stands out on the skyline. One for the Milestone fans out there, get a load of this one. This is not just a milestone, it's also a set of horse mounting blocks. 2 historical features in one. And to be honest, that's all there really is to Lund, save for one area we've still to see. On the way up to that area, I noticed something rather interesting about the footpaths. One thing I've noticed about these Wolds villages, it seems to be the case in a lot of them, not all of them have footpaths, and if they do, they tend to be only for short distances. It's either that or they're footpaths like the one I'm about to show you here, just outside the church, where they're raised up via some steps or something similar at the side of the road. Rather than being like this, they're like that. To finish with, we're off to the village hall. Lund is by no means a dead village. There's a pleasantly refurbished village hall, which is the centre of a thriving carpet bowls club and many other activities. And here it is, situated off North Road and directly in front of Lund's playground, or if you will, the Lund community area. There are no dogs allowed on the community area, which kind of makes sense. In truth, if you're looking to exercise your dog around here, there's loads of places other than this. The park is pretty well maintained, just like the rest of the villages, and there's ample facilities for the children that live here, and also for this big kid too, as you're about to see. Now there's a football in that goal over there. You might remember the last time I showed my ineptitude with soccer skills was way back in the Pollington episode in the East Riding, where I couldn't kick a ball straight to save my life. Let's see if I can do it this time. Oh, still can't do it. It was that far wide, that far wide. I think on that evidence, I'd better stick to making videos. At least with this, I know I'm not going to make an absolute fool of myself. Oh wait, hold on. Okay, we're back at the car after taking you around Lund. What a nice little place this is, and you guys need a picture bit for this now. Now, Lund Parish is quite a large one when you look on the map. It's elongated. The village is sort of in the eastern portion of it, and then to the west there's a lot of farmland. And crossing that farmland is the Selby to Driffield railway line, which we've met in previous episodes. And that's one of the things, hopefully, if I can find one, I'm going to put in today's picture bit, and that's coming your way right about now. Okay, to finish with, we're going to hop into the trusty old car of mine and drive that way out of the village towards my next one, which is still on the Wolds, but it's going to be much bigger than this one. It'll take me a good hour, if not an hour and a half, to walk around the next one, so it'll be a bit longer than this. But to be honest with you, Lund is just the perfect size. I think I'd love to live here. It's so quiet, it's so peaceful, it's got everything you need. That fantastic little bus shelter, the old forge, is absolutely incredible. All sorts of things in there, and it's on a bus route too, so you know, even if you don't drive, you can still get here via public transport. This has been the Parish of Lund, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.